Hello, musicians. Now let's talk about how the instruments of the orchestra are seated. We're going to go back 400 years to the beginning of the modern orchestra. In the Baroque period from 1600 to 1750, we have the violins, the violas, the cellos, and one-string bass. The clarinet is here, but it was added later in the Baroque period. We've got an oboe and a flute and a trumpet. The conductor would have been either seated and playing the harpsichord, or maybe played first violin, or conducted for one of the other instruments. Now we're going to fast forward a little bit to the classical time period from 1750 to 1820. So we're talking about 250 years ago to about 200 years ago. Yeah, that's about right. We've got our violins, our violas, our cellos, and our string basses. Look how we've added some woodwinds. So now our clarinet is part of the orchestra. We've still got our flutes. We've now got a bassoon, and here's our oboe. And we're adding besides just the trumpet, we've added French horns, and now we have some timpani. Fast forward even further to about 200 years ago to about 100 years ago. And now we've added the piano and the harp for some instrumental color. Here are our violins and our violas and our cellos and our string basses, just like before. We've kept the same woodwind instruments, but we just have more of them. We still have our French horns and our trumpets, but we've added our trombones and our tubas. And now look at all of the fun timbres, that means instrumental sounds, that we have for percussion. We've got our timpani, cymbals, chimes, triangle, our snare drum, and our bass drum. Next, take a look at a professional orchestra, and let's just see how everybody is seated. Usually we have our stringed instruments in the front because they're a little bit quieter. Our woodwinds would be next, and even louder would be our brass instruments, and then our very loud percussion instruments in the back. Now you know a little bit more about how the instruments of the orchestra are seated. Every conductor might move instruments around a little bit, so it won't be exactly like this anytime you go to an orchestra concert, but it's a good general rule.